Dumelang, Sanbonani, good morning. For 30 years in South Africa, we have enjoyed freedom. Mostly we have had more politicians and less governance. Today we're discussing the role of governance and politics. How does the two meet? In 2013, a young man was elected the mayor of the Midvaal. He led the municipality for 10 years straight with clean audits. He is known as the best mayor in the country. Not only that, he was born in Thokoza. He was also one of the 100 most influential young South African, former DA member. He holds a bachelor degree in administration. He is the founder and president of Chiluba. Bongani Baloyi, welcome.
Thank you for having me. You know, when people read my my bio, sometimes it feels like I'm listening to my obituary. And it's as if I am the late. So yeah, I mean, I think I always appreciate just the journey when people introduce it, because of the things that many of the things that I do, I forget.
Yeah.
And it's people through reading my profile who remind me, or when I do door to door, people whom I've assisted remind me, and I don't even remember them, that I am here because of you. This is how my journey started. But thank you for the platform. I think it's always good to get onto platforms and talk about things that are important.
Yes.
And more so in the body of our politics, vis-a-vis 30 years of democracy, what that means for all of us. So I'm really excited to be here on your platform.
You know, you are right when you say your tenure as a mayor of the Midvaal is what actually made you the best mayor, where black excellence was seen in governance. Yeah. Usually our people are always known to be, if they're in government, they're going to steal and have maladministration. But let's go back. You were born in Thokoza.
Yeah.
Your childhood.
Yeah.
Did you always have a thing for politics, or it just found you on the way?
I was born into a family that was deeply involved in politics. So my father's side is from Thokoza, Khumalo Street, which is just a few meters from the famous hostel, which was an IFP base, about 500 meters. So you can just imagine. And my mother's side, Mnguni. So my mother's side is more inclined to the PAC, school of thought. Okay. My father's side, more ANC school of thought. So I was brought up in that environment where you see and witness the atrocities. I mean, I can remember from memories from the earlier when I was 4 and 5, seeing people being necklaced, burnt, and stoned to death, and various dead bodies along Khumalo Street as well, and witnessing all of that. And I think because one was born in that environment, later you ask yourself about the things you experienced and understood, so you get to understand. And yesterday I remembered a funny story when I first met a white person in my life. So we were having a conversation with someone about my path, and I said, by the way, let me tell you when I first met a white person. They came to look for my father's younger brother, who was leading the MK zone in Khumalo Street. Okay. Looking for him. It was this, I saw big white people. You know,
the giants.
The giants. It was the first time I saw a white person.
An Afrikaner.
Yes, an Afrikaner. And they were asking, "Was Bafana?" Me, I don't know. I mean, I'm 4 or 5 years old then, and we had an older cousin there who was similar age to Baba Mnganam Bafana. And what they did then that was the first time I saw a wedgie as well. When they picked him up from the underwear, from the waist, and the underwear landed below
the humiliation.
His armpits. That was my first experience of white people. And they beat him up. They're looking for Bafana. So now I'm starting to remember all of these things, and it's quite contradictory when you look at my journey and my path thereafter, because you remember these things and they have a potential to sway you to one political thinking or the other, and how to see a race of people as well, how you experience it.
I think based on experience, right? Somebody would assume that you grew up to be a radical extremist, to say, I remember, I'm a Kader.
In fact, it did the opposite. I learned forgiveness from a very young age. I remember my grandmother and my mother coming from the Kulmani talks, these talks about finding peace and TRC. I remember those images vividly of this dove and this. You remember those that picture for 1994 building the peace and that. I remember my family speaking about finding healing. and Hlambuluke as well, Kusuke, all these things. But at the same time, as a young person, when you grow, you're also then exposed, you're going to different schools with white people as well. In many of the schools I went to, from primary to high school, we were the first blacks who went in. So
you were the first Middle East.
Yes, we were the first ones, and some of us with bursaries because there's a single parent and the father was neither here nor there. So you get to experience this new environment in your contrast. But here, why is it like this? But where I'm from, why is it like this? Why must I leave at 5:30 and I'm 14 years old? Catch a train at 6 o'clock and then land at Mayerton and then walk for the next 3 kilometers to go to school. So by the time I get to school, my peers are fresher than I am.
And you're already tired.
I'm tired already. I'm tired. Correct. Then when I go back home, I must catch the 3:30 train, between 3:30 and 4:15 train, which means I get home close to 5 or 5:30. And then you must still do your homework. So you never go to a library or get that level of assistance. So it's those things around the environment which made me curious. And you ask questions. And some people tell you, no, pray harder. But others will eventually tell you, no, it's politics.
Do something about
it. You'd have to do something about it. So in my journey, you firstly look at politics as a thing you would never get into because it's a thing for special men. Oh, it's your Nelson Mandela's, Chris Hanni's. There's those names that they drop of men who were formidable, who contributed immensely. Which then gives you an imposter syndrome to make you think, not you.
Yeah, not
you must sit there. You are not worthy. Yes, you don't even know the struggle things. I mean, in any case, where would I, as a 7-year-old, do tap into the struggle?
Where were you in Lusaka?
I was busy playing marbles with my peers, chasing all these things you do. So I think for me, the socialization part of my journey developed me to be the person that I am today. But most importantly, when you come of age as a young person, as a young man, you start thinking deep about who you are, what is important to you, and the things that you believe is your purpose. And for me, I'm the person that's not driven by hate. I operate from a place of love.
But then here's my question. You were 26. As a mayor coming into the mayoral office, probably as a young man, like, I made it, baby. Right? But also, again, there's a part where I'm asking myself, when did you join the DA at that time, and why did you choose the DA?
It's my mother.
Okay.
The DA must give my mother flowers. When my mother left ANC and moved in Ekurhuleni and moved to the Val, she tried to be active in ANC politics in the Val, and she was completely not given the space. And then eventually she decided that she's not going to compromise her dignity to get opportunity. She'll sit and leave politics. Then she became an activist. She was busy with these AIDS door-to-door campaigns, NGO space, fighting with the local mayor then. And eventually the mayor recruited my mother.
Okay.
And said, we think you can contribute because we are aligned to what you think, and we think you can better help your community working with us as opposed to working against us. My mother joined the DA.
Okay.
So that was around 2006, 2005, 2007, around that period. So Mina, as the firstborn, obviously you support your parent.
Yes.
And when you go home, different sizes, different politics from both sides of the family, and people don't understand the DA choice. And many people, cut us off completely because of the choice of the DA.
Yeah, they sold out.
Yeah, which is fine, which has helped me now, really. because they taught me that you can live without some people.
Yes.
And once you have your close-knit family, you should be fine with that.
True.
Don't chase love. If you find it at home with one person, it should be sufficient for you. So focus on what you have been put on earth for.
Yes.
So my mother joined, I supported, and slowly got introduced into the DA. I remember one meeting that was quite, I think, instructive for me, that pulled me deeper in this DA meeting was sitting in, and these adults were just beating about the bush. They could not say what the spade is. A fork is a spade or a spade. It's a garden tool that looks like this. So I put up my hand, I spoke, and my trouble started from there. Then I got pulled in deeper and deeper. So by the time in 2021, when I was mayor a member of when I was a councillor in 2021, 2011, before being elected mayor 2013, I was already in the DA for about 6-7 years already.
Okay. Okay.
So I was already an active youth member in the DA. So fortunately, I've led at every level in the DA, from branch to constituency to region, been part of the PEC numerous times, and also served at FedEx as well. So for a career of 15 years, I think one was able to work progressively. So if you were to read out my profile to many people and say, guess the age, they would not say this is a profile of a 37-year-old. They'd probably think in the 40s and the 50s. So that's how I got deeper and deeper and deeper. And I found that, okay, there's no water. If I call this person, they resolve the water.
If there's the other one.
Yes. So actually now I see, so you don't need to be an OR Tambo to do this thing and to have this brand. So a person like me can do this. I can write an email to the mayor and he calls me to a meeting and says, let's talk.
So that's how you saw your power.
Yeah. So then it gave me the right to believe, because the proximity to what I wanted was closer.
Yeah.
So then I enjoyed it more, and I started participating, contributing, and getting closer. And ultimately, when I resigned from my accounting training, when I was studying and training at the same time, I focused fully in this path, because then I had found my purpose.
So the question would be, after 15 years of career, you're in the DA, you are growing, you're going to the next levels.
Yeah.
People never really expected that there was a new age in the DA where you saw the rise of yourselves, Musi Meimani, Hemen Mashaba, black people running, Makashule Ghana as well. That generation, would you say that's when the DA was somehow embracing, or has it always been like that?
Beyond that generation was very telling. It was the DA's highest moment. I believe that will be the DA's highest moment ever. And the time when they were closest to government.
Yes.
Because we started to see a DA that looked like us.
Yeah.
And a leader who spoke like us. And the more he tried to be himself, the more he got into trouble, which made us realize this is our person. And now we firmly believe that actually we can make internal roads in the party and start transforming the party to be a party of South Africans, and not a party of those who believe this is our thing, this is our precious.
Yeah, this is our legacy.
Correct. So you have people who will tell you that they're going to open the DA's bank account. So that type of person, when they look at me and you, they don't see they don't see an equal. Because when this was established, they took out 500 rand from their pocket to go and open their account. Who are you?
So to them, it's their baby.
It's their baby. Yeah. This is ours.
Just participate.
Yeah,
don't tell
Luna,
us what
we are traditional voters. You are non-traditional voters. So even when we go to a conference, we give more delegates to traditional voters, areas that vote DA. And in the areas of non-traditional voters, we must fight and say, but there's not enough representation of black people. So we've got more numbers to march in Soweto, but we get more votes in Bryanston. So Soweto is disadvantaged. That's why you'll find black people marching in majority, because they are the full members. But when it comes to voting, they are not given the same power as an area like Bryanston when the delegates come from there. So Bryanston, without any branches or anything, or very active branch, they would get easily 5 delegates. Soweto and Mfulo would maybe get 1 delegate. It doesn't make sense. So we're dealing with those internal things to try and change the party, not just the face, but now wanted to change internally the institution.
Was this the birth of the black faction? Was this
Absolutely.
something like that? Was this something
Black
like
Caucus.
That? Oh, Black Caucus.
Yes, I must blame Makashule Ghana and Ramule for Kume for leading that, because they were the loyal members of the Black Caucus, and I really think some came and went, but there was people who believe that we can really uplift and change this party to reflect us and to be able to be a party that contests all the power and majority vote of the country. That was the party at its height, and I really think that the dealing with Musi was a way of taking the party back
to the legacy.
Correct, because it was moving away from that base for them, and they started to see that for us to handle it or manage it in one way or another, we needed to move my money. And I think he was incredibly foolish to agree to have an external panel evaluate, because he is accountable and responsible to the highest decision-making body of the party which elected him. So had he fought
to
the DA would be different today. Some of us would not have left. So that moment in time is the reason where many of us lost hope that it can never look like the DA wanted to look like.
Then there was a new age where you guys left with ActionSA. You were the Gauteng provincial chairperson. And was it because you found the DA to be more home or to be a better DA in a way? Because some people are saying ActionSA is a black caucus of the DA. Maybe it could be wrong, could be right.
Look, I found similarities.
Yeah.
What I enjoyed most about the ActionSA project, which I'm also proud of my contribution in that year, I got the valuable experience of going into a startup political party. You move from an established political party to a startup political party.
Ground,
The skills you learn are different skills, very different skills. So I often see value in acquiring skill to ultimately get to a point of wisdom. So the skills there I learned were very important for me, which I tap on regularly these days. So that gave us hope because it was unencumbered. There was no links to so and so, and it was a fresh party. Policies had not been formed by then. You see, now when policies have not been formed, then you can work towards building a type of outlook and policy formation, etc. So we started to contribute there. I think for me, the journey there was short-lived because I did not understand a number of things. In the DA, when I had serious issues around maybe we don't agree with the leadership, etc. We would fight on the floor of a federal council, and then a leader of a DA will still make the space to call you
and say
you're talking rubbish, and really have a frank conversation.
Yes.
So I knew that if I don't agree with them, I'd get a call. Say, hey, you made this point. I agree. I concede here, but here I don't agree. Why do you mean by this? Or even on the sidelines of. On this side of ActionSA, you do that. It's personal. So for me, I did not understand. So when you then call me to a meeting and you say, I don't trust you, and I want to remove you as a provincial chairperson of Gauteng, and then subsequently appoint you as the national spokesperson of the party. And the basis for me not to trust you is the remarks you made about my driver in a meeting where it was on the agenda. How you engage on that thing showed that there's a lack of trust between me and you, and we no longer call each other.
But how do they say they want to give you the national spokesperson yet they don't trust you?
So for me, words have meaning. I'm a person who gives of my time and service to a project. So money is not the first thing in my mind. It's about my purpose and to give of myself towards a direction. So when people speak and there's probably they're thinking that I need something for money, that's where we because for me it's Tunsam. I worked for my name, my brother. And my name is not just my name. I represent my ancestors. I represent my mother. I represent my church. Who asked me,
who was speaking into your life.
Yeah, we see this thing on TV. Why Baloyi? Yeah. So I've got people who will ask those things of me, and when they sense it's out of character, they will ask. So I don't just represent me, but I'm associated to a lot of things that hold me accountable to a level of standard. So for me, when someone wants to say those things to me and think because I've got nowhere else to go, I'll then agree to be appointed as a national spokesperson, which works with you on a day-to-day basis. So I just said to you, you know what, I will give you appoint the provincial coordinator, chairperson. I will give you that part that I'm going to step back, and then you can appoint who you want. And I want to think about. So I took a week to think about the next step for me, and I realized this is not home for me.
And that was the birth of Chiluba.
Absolutely. Then I handed back. So the thing with me as I depart, I don't break. Mid-Val, I served my term. I finished my term. I handed over. I handed over and left a municipality that had close to 150 million rands in the bank account, cash. So a municipality that went from 700 million when I took over to an annual budget of 2.3 billion rand. So I handed over something that was sustainable in a viable position financially, and it's a very strong financial position which had reserves. I handed that to somebody. So when I made the move to ActionSA, my responsibilities were finished.
You handed over.
I was no longer part of. I was no longer part of the institution by then. So there was no implications of movement, linking or creating instability. No, and I communicated a year before the elections that I'm not coming back.
So just know
Prepare yourself.
If you need anything from me, ask me now.
Now, but most importantly, prepare who's coming, who will take over from me. Prepare.
But then the question would be, which Chiluba? Because I think maybe looking at your political journey from DA to ActionSA, would you say you're a social democrat? What would be the ideology of Chiluba? What makes it different from where you come from?
Ubuntu.
Okay.
Ubuntu. My ideology is Ubuntu. It's what I've been practicing. People first. The love of my people. So I believe that Ubuntu fundamentally tells us that, and against popular belief that Ubuntu is just I am because we are, and we leave it there. There's some nice ideology about Africans coexisting together, sitting under a tree, drinking umqombothi. No, it's far deeper than that.
Yeah.
Ubuntu is our essence as black people.
True.
And when we say Ubuntu in the main, there's three aspects that work with each other. First part is umuntu abantu. So before you can be umuntu, you must be part of abantu, which destroys this ideology, the basis of the ideology of liberalism and others. It says individual first. This one is people, your group first. As a consequence of you contributing to the communal table, the communal goods, then you become umuntu, a person, an individual. So you don't become an individual without affirming it by contributing positively to the communal table. So now you just oppose what the ANC has done. Is that ubuntu? It's the erosion of ubuntu. So when people behave like these guys are behaving, then you're saying, "Aksaso mundi silwane le nto le." Because then their individual interests went against the communal table of delivering of the communal goods to everybody for everybody's benefit. That has been me all along. I just did not have the words to describe it then. But now when I reflected in my journey, I realized this is me.
This is Ubuntu.
The reason Midval is because of Ubuntu and the philosophy that I had. So then the second aspect of Ubuntu is Isintu, and the third aspect is Amasiko. These three things work together. These things ground a black person.
Yes.
It protects you, it builds an ethical and moral fiber around you as a black person. So then it limits you on the things you can do and what you can't do because those things are against your society. But this Ubuntu and the African philosophy has been eroded because now we have taken over a value system of a westernized value system. So this westernized value system contradicts who we are essentially. That's why Africans are perpetually in a state of, what's this word I'm looking for? Schizophrenia. At home, you are one thing. In the work environment, you are something else. You are not sustained as a black person because we have lost who we are. When we're constantly assimilating into all these other isms, liberalism, socialism, which of these things were born of black people?
None of them.
So here's one I firmly believe that is born out of our ancestors. So we must go back to Antlata Isintu Namasiko, because both in Isintu Namasiko there's real practices and then there's imikuba. And people see imikuba that have been done by people who don't understand our culture. And this imikuba has bastardized our culture. Now when people think culture, they think it's regressive, they think and there was a reason why.
It was deliberate.
It was deliberate, and it was building African families. Stats SA tells us that 60% of African families are single-parent led. The majority of the time, if it's a single-parent led, it's umama. If the primary parent, which is a mother, is not there, then it's a grandmother. Then only a father comes at number 3. So moving away from our essence has opened us up and actually killed and decimated our African families, including migration and also moving from rural areas to come and work in provinces, in urbanization and all of those things.
But then I'm going to ask you this one thing. So we get to a point where now, let's say you're in government. And your ideology is Ubuntu, and I think you have shown that you have been. Usually people will be saying China Marijuana no you had 200 million, you didn't charge anything. You know?
See?
You know what I'm saying?
And that's against Ubuntu,
it's
fundamentally.
Against Ubuntu, it's against value system.
Correct.
So I'm gonna jump into governance. What do you think the current state got it wrong? You managed to run a municipality for over 10 years and you managed to grow it from, as you said, from 700 million to over 150 million. Yeah. Where do you think the current government is losing it? I mean, next door to you is Mfuleni. That is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's done, it's finished.
Yeah, there's two situations that we must choose as a country. One is someone who can govern, and then there are those who the PR is bigger than the problem.
Okay.
We often like where the PR is bigger than the problem. Hey, ubhizi lo muntu. Hey, is all over TV. Magnenkinga ula. In your eyes, it shows someone who's responsive.
Who's busy.
But no. Governance is an art. Governance is a discipline. The ultimate sophistication of governance is in its simplicity. So governance does not speak, it delivers.
Okay.
Governance does not speak, it delivers. So governance appreciates that the leaders come together and determine the vision and the goals and create predetermined objectives. Then they gear an institution to ruthlessly implement and move towards achieving those predetermined objectives. So it is the objectives that speak louder than the face. People will then appreciate the face for its output. And that was my journey in Midval. But right now, what we see is where the PR is bigger than the problem. So problems creates a PR base for people to be seen as people who are doing 1, 2, 3. But you must know, whenever you see a politician who then finds it for themselves to go and take a kharaf, but Bayovala isn't, and not gear the institution to take a khalaf and do it consistently and do it proactively and also responsive. It's PR. They don't understand governance, which is getting the institution to deliver a mandate that you have predetermined. So the problem now starts with leadership.
But then they always say leadership, as they call themselves, leadership. And the question is it because of lack of education, or is just maybe the hunger? Because people are always saying, we are hungry. Is it the hunger that drives them to this? I mean, like, I don't think you are privileged in, but you stood to your values. Can we really say corruption is a result of people trying to get as much as they can before they leave office? Is that the mentality?
That is a life. That is a real situation. But let's consider where public representatives come from, their parties.
Yes.
So those parties, let's consider the fact that there's no space for meritocracy. You are elected on the basis of popularity. Your popularity is as a consequence of money you get from business interest or government, and then you utilize your government position to bring about maximum popularity for your name, and then in the party it benefits you. You've got access patronage to government. You give business tenders. Business comes back and gives you money. You buy a conference. Now you can influence it with maximum of your delegates. So an environment like that will never give you meritocracy. It will always give you nonsense.
So whoever who has the biggest funder wins the conference.
Absolutely. We've seen it CR17. It happened exactly. So firstly, you must appreciate where those leaders come from. They come from that environment. That's why we said as Chiluba that we are going to pursue a different route. We are going to insulate ourselves from money and business interest. The main currency in Chiluba that will determine whether you ascend or not is your output in government. That's the main thing.
So Chiluba is government-orientated. Governance oriented.
Output delivery. So now no one can talk with you. Want to go for conference. Oh, where have you led? Where in government? Where have you led? What have you done for a term? So before, let's just focus. Moya pans manj. Let's get into government. We give you the opportunity to lead on behalf of the party, deliver the social goals on the communal table. Repetitively, not just one thing. You must do it repetitively, so people see. People see.
You did it for 10 years, so I think.
Exactly. So I'm saying that's the standard. That's the standard to lead. We often say the standard to lead is something which does not make sense to people, does not give confidence. So ours, we are clear. We are doing this so we can get into government. When we get into government, we must demonstrate that we can deliver the communal goods on the communal table for everyone's benefit. Once we have done that, then we are following the Chinese model about who we let in to lead and what you have done, not about your popularity. So now leaders come from an environment where it's popularity driven, where already they come owing people.
Favors.
So how about another? They are looking, hey, this table, I don't like this. We can get another one. They want to benefit from everything, including sales of toilet paper.
Yes.
So when they come in, there's this thinking that it's my people are coming in. So those who are there must leave. The municipal manager, city manager must make a plan of people just leaving, which doesn't make sense. I took over from a mayor. We kept the same staff. In fact, I did something unprecedented in Midval. I started taking senior staff who were directors, deputy directors, and seconding them to my office. So my office was staffed by employees of the municipality who were longer than 10 years in the municipality, who were seconded to my office to advise me on specific things. Because I wanted, this thing of always walking to the office has frustrated me. Because now I must always walk, because I want to catch them there. I've got files. I want to understand what's this. Let me bring these people in my office.
And let's work together.
Let's work.
Govern together.
Correct. That's where I got to understand what governance is, what we need to do. That's why I got to understand that when you're a leader leading an institution, you must understand by the time you sleep, what is the balance in the bank account today.
And how far have you went? I'm going to go, you are a young person. The youth of this country there's a view that the youth don't know who to vote for. There is no leader that is appetizing for them.
Yeah.
As Chiluba, what would you say would be your priority issues in terms of the youth?
Look, we share a common fear with young people.
Yes.
We don't know what tomorrow holds for us.
Certainly.
We are fearful because we feel it's going to be worse. More than 50% of us are unemployed. We are unemployable. And many of us have children. And the consequence is that a 39-year-old can be a grandmother these days, or a grandfather, because the age of persons having children is getting younger and younger. It speaks about our social fiber, moral fiber as a country, and how 15, 13-year-olds can have relationships and which bear children. And you see, we deepen the poverty cycle. So we live in that environment where there's drugs, there's prostitution. We are burdened by indottamast. So there's a pressure. Suicide rates amongst suicide rates amongst young men are increasing every day, which speak to the type of fears we have. So we recognize that we need to do something. Stats SA says the biggest voting pool sits between the ages of 18 to 49. These people are unemployable. These people are supposed to be the working class, the core of the working class, who will give this country the next 20 years of their labor.
True.
And pay tax and not extract from the fiscus through grants of 350 or grant of pregnancy and all these things.
But as a governor, I'm going to stop you there. What do you think is the intention here of 350? Because I've been trying to look at what is the intention. I don't want to even question the grants and whatever. This one is willy-nilly to say, if you're unemployed, come and apply. What do you think is intention, and where do you think maybe might be a spiral, what do you call that thing? It could be about ultimate detriment.
I believe the intention may be well-founded, but the application does not lead to anything.
Okay.
Because if it's monetary gain ahead of you being part of a program and contributing. So the biggest thing is that this 350 is not moving young people from where they are.
True.
In fact, they are coming back with a bit of money and engaging in other means. When you expect them to look at transport and for looking for jobs, etc., instead it's going to Betway. It's going to all these things that young people are doing on the ground to make ends meet and create some livelihoods as well, and to create a sense that they are living for the weekend only. So for us, we believe that, one, we need a path. So in our thinking, in our drafting of our rescue plan for South Africa, we speak of the youth pandemic of unemployment. And we say there are three types of people there. There are those who don't have any qualification. Maybe at highest is a matric, but no qualification, no previous working experience, and they are unemployed and unemployable.
True.
There are those who have from technical to degree, sitting doing nothing, trying to find work, and there are those who are working but looking for something better. We're saying, one, those who are sitting home doing nothing, the 350 beneficiaries must be immediately absorbed into conscription in the military for 2 years full.
Okay.
So once you are gone, we only see you after 2 years.
Okay.
It's very important to remove ourselves from our immediate environment and be placed in a different environment for 2 full years. You'll speak to your people over the phone.
Environment is important.
It is extremely important. If you remove someone from the same environment, you also unlock their thinking as well.
Yes.
You don't see the same things there. It's a different environment. You get to learn different skills, new attitudes. And lapha nozohamba uyipara. Your parents will be, when they see you after 2 years, they'll be so happy that I can see life in my son.
I think maybe somebody else, as a young person, there could be a fear that, guys, do we really have to go back to the army? Like,
go back to them. They've never been to the army.
We are in a soft life. There was a view that during apartheid, that's what the apartheid government did. When after matric, you go into the army. And now if you go into the army, which I've seen some do it passively because there is no opportunity, so army took me in, I'm just gonna go. But then what would be is discipline the key issue why you are taking them to the army?
Beyond discipline, we are solving multiple problems, but ultimately the problem we are trying to attempt responding to is economic problem. So economic problem has many manifestations. drugs, alcohol, high teenage pregnancy, high HIV, and all these things happening in a society. So then, because of economy not working, we pay from it from the social side of the fiscus.
Yes.
There's a direct correlation. Because one does not work, then look at what we have done from the social basket. It has been increasing more. We are giving more, but those we give are less.
Yes.
So at the same time, crime is increasing because these young people, they are sitting on the corners. I need to eat something today. My mother does not have any food. And my sister has a child. She's not there. What are we going to eat today? So crime, many people say, fundamentally, let's respond to crime by increasing SEPs. And we say, no. Crime is a consequence of decisions born out of the socio-economic situation. So intervene. We are obsessed about finding you there before we find you when we arrest you. Because when we find you before we arrest you, we can change your decision and your course of life. I can put you in a different path.
Yes.
Hamba Ipsochen, amongst many other things we like about that environment, Savannah and Habli Babli again. you can't enter there with Savannah and Habli Babli, which is a thing I've been seeing on the ground. Every street corner where there's young people, these two things are there.
Yeah, true.
Savannah, Habli Babli. And
become a new culture.
Now I'm so surprised. They even drink, they take the milk stout with milk.
Yeah? Hey, you've seen it.
Hey, I've seen things. I've seen these trends I don't understand.
Isn't there milk and milk stout? Okay, I'm confused.
I also think because it's milk stout, but I saw them mixing it and drinking.
And I think definitely there are social ills amongst our people. And I'm going to go to the part of education.
Yes.
Can it be used somehow as a tool to shape the thinking of our people? Maybe the curriculum is outdated. Maybe it's not challenging enough. I mean, like now you have a 30% pass mark rate.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe we can use education to kind of revive the social or the moral fiber of our people again?
We must, and I'm really worrisome about the influence of globalists in our education, in how they influence certain agendas to be more dominant in our discourse than others, to the erosion of our values. So we must ensure, number one, history must come back.
True.
We must tell the history of this country. There's one event where we first met each other by the business day. It was something that
you're my people.
Yes, you were there. You invited me. I went, and I was so struck by this 9-year-old who did the poem, the last speaker.
Yes.
And one of the things I remember vividly that they said that young girls that we must never forget. The genocide on Jewish. We must never forget.
Yes.
You can count how many decades that has been. And for someone who understands it at that age and pledges, we must never forget. Imagine if that thinking is put in Africans, white Afrikaners, English, and they understand what happened to the past. And every one of us say this was a crime against humanity. We must not sweep it under the table. We must put it on top of the table. So beyond just the history part, we firmly believe that subjects science in school must also speak to our material environment, which is the built environment.
Yes.
Roads, reservoirs, building cities. We must actually make it practical. What I'm also trying to get to is build this thinking in our citizens that when people say, Asame so she is, your child will say, do you know this thing is asphalt?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to last so many years. So when you take this and you do this to asphalt, you are doing... So children, the other day I was with my daughter in the car. So we just had soft drinks and I want to open the window and throw away...
The car, yeah.
She went at me.
Daddy, you're littering.
Hey, I felt so embarrassed. I took this thing, I put it nicely there. So we must educate those ones.
Yeah.
Those ones will become our conscious. With the very key things that for us is a behavioral thing we no longer question, but for them is something substantive. But building a new environment requires us to gear our education towards the direction economically we're going towards, but equally how to have critical thinking citizens.
Yes.
So the part that we link education to conscription. One, we firmly believe education from early childhood development must be free until your first degree.
Okay.
So here's what we mean by that. When you leave high school under Chiluba, you leave high school with a driver's license. When you have your driver's license as well, and then you go for military conscription, which qualifies you for your free education post-varsity. So we're going to move some of areas in universities to colleges. So we need a college that will deal with education and teaching. You need a college that will deal with nurses and healthcare.
Yes.
You need a college that will deal with the built environment infrastructure.
Yeah.
You need a college that will deal with police, SNDF, and MIRASA, all those
this
matters.
key.
So
Yeah.
the key components. So then you restructure how you utilize universities for.
To feed this.
Correct. Universities must play a role in supportive, but equally a role where when you go for your second degree,
Yes.
this is where you start. But it can't be the main source for all of these. So there has to be a path. And we also want to amend the national legislation to ensure that progressively over the next 10 years, to be employed in government, you must have gone for conscription.
I think it also builds patriotism.
Aha. How to have a Zimbabwean as a DG in Free State?
Yeah? I didn't know that.
You people
I
are paying.
didn't
In
know that.
Mpumalanga, you had one as a chief financial officer in Citibank some time ago. I mean, those things happen as a consequence of the system being broken. So for us, there are things that we can do, which is a quick win, but there are things we must commit to do over 10 years. To change the South Africa, to change the
culture.
The DNA of these administrations. So when we link the two, education has a clear role. What this also does, we are able to insulate our young people at their most vulnerable time,
But
put them in a different environment, training, and when they come out, they are placed in areas of employment.
yeah, then it becomes a proper trajectory.
Yeah, so then you see that it's now 5 years. We have now consolidated. We have now put a stop in this leak. Now we are able to, by the end of our first term, we'll be able to unleash human potential in the second term.
Actually, speaking on that part where use of Zimbabweans being DDGs, what's your view on illegal immigration? Are you also part of the people who are saying open borders, Africa is one, or do you think that we should close those borders and manage them in a way?
Look, when you in your description, you finished it for me. You said illegal. So we love the law.
Yes.
A key component of Chiluba and our ideology of Ubuntu is law and order. Umthetho.
Yeah.
You know, when you get to a security guard uthola umZulu lapha nathi umthetho awuvumi.
Next. Umlungu
Angeke undlule. You won't pass. Makuthiwe nje umthetho awuvumi. Umlungu uthe.
That's it.
Full stop. You can come with your big English and those sort of things, then it's full stop. So for us, we are going to implement it like that.
Yeah.
Illegal, you have committed a crime. We are going to process you properly. And you are going to go home. And before you go home, you are going to serve these people of South Africa that you've contravened their laws for your gain. So people must understand what is asukba. We don't just arrest you and deport you immediately. No. You are going to serve. How are you going to serve? You are going to be absorbed into a farming project. So your conviction, once you are found an illegal person, you'll be convicted to go in public service for 2 years. And you will work where we tell you to go and work at no cost to the country. In the process, if you decide to go home, you can go home. But we're also going to fight hard in SADC that we must have the same platform for the registration of our citizens. This thing that we can't find you is wrong. And SADC has to come to common platforms, at least there, or common platforms where we can find our citizens and find where they are. So we are saying, one, there'll be elements of soft diplomacy and hard diplomacy in the laws. So internally in the country, we'll exercise our laws and we'll find you. And when we find you before you find us, it's going to be trouble for you. Then the next part, we also have a responsibility with soft diplomacy and economic diplomacy to invest in Zimbabwe. It is cheaper to keep Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe by creating jobs there. But we take South Africans and say, South Africans in the following sectors, the government is going to pay the capital cost for you. You must go and do the following investment on behalf of the country. We trust you have done this. And as a consequence, you're creating jobs there. And 40% of the proceeds comes back to the country.
So I'm going to wrap up with this. There is a common view in the country or in the world, liberation movements, black power, and they always say they can't govern, right? African continent, if you look at our history, we were the last ones to be liberated. But already right now, 30 years later, we are also at the brink of collapse.
Yeah.
Could it be that discipline or maybe somehow governance has not necessarily been the core suit. We've always been led by political ideologies and less more about what governments ought to do to the people.
Well, let me firstly say, recognize the contribution and the development of the country since post 1994.
Yes.
We would be lying if we're saying all is bad and there hasn't been any development.
True.
So our point of departure is to say the base or the benchmark of apartheid was a low benchmark. Apartheid was a crime against humanity.
True.
So when our government today compares itself to apartheid, it's a low benchmark. You can't compare yourself to a crime against humanity.
Yes.
We deserve better. And I think the part that's not spoken about is the interest from the commercial side in business. Business and those key families that have been influencing the politics and the economies of this country have not lost anything. Instead, they've gained more.
True.
Which tells you that we don't actually speak about this side of democracy, which has been the monetization of our democracy. And those who believe they own this, they own the government and they own the economy, and they can collapse their rent if one individual says, I'm running again for presidents, to the detriment of all of us.
Ish.
So we don't speak about that side of it. And I really want to pursue a conversation where we start saying, but who are these people who have done this? And it's easy to find is the people who keep giving money to the big political parties to sustain their interest. No one gives money because they are a child of God and they just want to help you.
Or they love you.
No, these things don't happen. They do so precisely because they want to have an interest, they want to maintain an influence, and they want to be able to shape some key policies to their benefit on the other side.
Yeah.
So we don't speak about this side. We think it's noble that these people give money to politicians, but this is how they capture, this is how they buy a politician. I think the famous politician that was captured is Nelson Mandela. And the problem started there. No one asked themselves how a famous prisoner walks out of prison and goes to sex and world.
Yeah.
I don't know. So we don't want to start a conversation there and say, but you see, the ANC has a history of being captured. In fact, our entire body politics, there are those lobbies, at least in America, the lobbyists are very clear and they are known that they are lobbying for this here. Here they are hidden. And the benefits that they accrue to politicians, which state capture exposed, which is a small portion. So I really think that our democracy is seriously being undermined by capital.
But then the question would be, if we have leaders in that who are easily corruptible, that's the case, because it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
But don't you think, how do we fix patronage? Do we increase public service salaries? How do we make sure that these people are not necessarily easily corruptible by big business? And what is the role of big business in this? Where do you feel they're not playing their role?
So big, and here we're generalizing when we speak business, but there's specific ones who have an interest to undermine and to pervert the body of politics for their own gain. There's also the tough conversation that needs to be had with business broadly, who's sitting with trillion rands in reserves not investing in this country. And that's an unpatriotic thing, no matter how bad the government can. But if you are a South African and you're not investing in your own country, it says something about you for your own gain. So there's those two categories of business I think we really need to have a hard conversation with. Number three, the politicians, I think that's where Ubuntu is needed so much.
Yes.
Because you understand that you have been given a responsibility. So this thing that we also call people like me leaders, and yet I have not led anything. I've not shown you the fruits of my labor. Just my leader. You see, you also ruin this thing because now you've given someone that they don't deserve.
True.
So we also as society accept nonsense as leaders. We accept people who are just busy as leaders, who have got no business, who should never get anywhere close to a fiscus.
To power, yes.
To power. Look at the mayor of Mfuleni. The fellow, before being mayor, was happy to be a second in command of the ward council of his ward. That ward councillor passed on. He was happy to succeed his mentor. And then Jiggy, he's elected into government. ANC does not get PR seats. Now they look across. Hey, he's a leader of Bandentole. Hey, Nango Khateb. Yeah, Ozandot. Hey, Khateb. Hey, I'm here. I've affirmed myself. So there's someone who has not been prepared, someone who has not led anywhere. And gotten ready to serve or lead such an institution, to be able to lead an institution for where there's a budget of well over 10 billion rands. When I was the most you know, Emalia Cinco. Yeah, that's the biggest thing he knows. So do you realize that the problems we face today could be prevented by electing people who are competent?
True.
But we want people who can sing.
Popular.
Want people who can sing, who can dance, who can do jokes, and who can be popular. Dry people like me are not given a thought.
Yeah.
Baloyi is Australian.
It's too smart, that one.
Yamuza nesilungu sakho Baloyi. Ngathi nje angumthembi kahle Baloyi. Uyabhora man Baloyi. Akana that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, kanti public institutions require public servants. People understand that you're not a celebrity. You are a servant.
You're here to serve the people.
You, as a servant, there are some spaces you'd never find yourself in. The spaces you will be seen regularly.
Yes.
But there are spaces and individuals you will not have proximity to. Because you understand those salient boundaries. That as a public servant, I can't go beyond this.
With great power comes great responsibility. Ntate Baloyi, doesn't Ntate Baloyi, I don't want to make you that old. But leader, as we wrap up, I look at South Africa right now. The land is no longer the issue on the land, on the table for most political parties. We are all running for this inclusive idea, and you being someone who came from the DA with also an inclusive. Yeah. Just to pick up your brain before we wrap up, what would you say would be the best way to redistribute the land and fix the inequality in this country, just in 2 minutes?
Well, the part of our ideology I spoke about is three aspects. Muntu, abantu, isintu, amasiko. And then there's a question, who's the custodian of these three things? Amakhosi. Yes. And we also believe Amakhosi are the custodian of land. Land was not taken from individuals. It was taken from Barren, or Mare, the institution of Barren.
Yes,
different kings.
Leaders.
Not traditional leaders, kings, kingdoms. Bathathela umhlaba. So umhlaba awubuyele khona lapho. You know, these kings came together to support the formation of what was then the African Natives Congress.
Yes.
Gave it a mandate of two things: bring back our land and our dignity. And 1994 gave us one man, one vote.
Hey, man.
So for us, we are clear. When we speak land, we speak three things. What is beneath the land, what is on top of the land, and what governs what happens on top of the land and beneath. So the laws of our forefathers have not been included in the constitution. So we must blend them in. So we move away from just having a platform where it's just Roman, Dutch, and British law. But what happened to the laws of our fathers?
Customary law. And
in fact, we are degrading it by calling it just customary law. Umthetho wethu in our land. So why must we even fight? And people say, but no, don't change the law. It's fine the way it is. Don't change the law. And I really think the law it also displaced our kings.
Yes.
And it also made our king not to have economic and governance value. So when there's a tap, issues of the tap and so on, they go to the councillor. And then Nduna joins the community to go march at the council because they've got no power to resolve these. So we firmly believe that the institution of African kings needs to be really looked at, and it needs to be blended in the democracy that represents us as Africans, and not Africans in Europe or Africans in the West, but Africans in Africa.
So in short, expropriation with compensation.
Without compensation.
Clear.
Now, without compensation, we firmly believe that people who need land will have access to land. Barren land, what's the point of barren land? But equally, the custodian of land should be amakhosi. We are very clear with that. Akunamuntu ozonomhlaba lana ozokhuluma ngomhlaba. So masithi umhlaba belongs to the custodianship of amakhosi. Siqedile this thing.
So there's not this idea of the state owning the land. Take it back to amakhosi.
Amakhosi. We must really build the institution of amakhosi. Look at Ngonya Matras. Many people have issues around Ngonya Matras. They'll tell you it's not developing. But why do you have Zimbali? Why do you have Simbiti there? You've got proper estates there in Ngonya Matras.
Yes.
So many people will just say, no, but no. This was taken from the forefathers. I'm not doing this responding to a view as if we're in Europe. We are here in Africa. So for me to right the wrongs of the past and empower my people is very important. And how do I do so? To ensure with part of the land question, I'm of course a part and central to the solution there. We can't leave those people outside. Those people should be the buffer between us and politicians.
Definitely. My brother, I'm wrapping up now. Why, as a young person, should I vote for your party, Chiluba? Our hope, our future. Why should I vote for Chiluba?
Absolutely. Chiluba is the party that is going to move South Africans where they are to a better place. We're going to make some hard decisions that will cause temporary challenges, but long-term solutions and sustainable solutions.
Yes.
The time to wait for Nelson Mandela and to vote on his memories is long gone. Now we must look at our children in the eyes and commit to go and vote on their behalf for a better future, for us to work. There's no one who's going to save us. And we must be very careful by supporting parties that are owned and controlled by white families. And on the face of it, they look as if they look like me and you. But the real agenda is the same agenda that everyone is trying to subjugate us in. The Africa of today is not the African that the West can speak to. We are inspired by what we're seeing in the Francophone countries in Africa, where young leaders are being led who are speaking against colonialism and the French etc. and influence into that part of Africa. We're inspired by that, and these are young people who actually can start speaking about their countries and what must happen to resources and their people in their country to the benefit of their people, not to sustain these economies that are extractive. So the foundation for the future South Africa and a future Africa is going to happen from these elections.
Chiluba, you heard it here. Bongani Baloyi, the best mayor in the country. He might just be the best president in Africa. Did he win your vote? Will you be voting for Chiluba in the next coming election? You make that choice. Share your comments in the comment section. And remember to share, comment, and repost. Why not subscribe? And yeah, see you in same time, same place next week. I am Bafana Modise, and this was Manifesto Unpacked, proudly brought to you by a podcast party. Tune in, turn up, take action. Ciao, ciao.